Some glad morning when this life is old, I'll fly away to our home, God's celestial shore. I'll fly away, I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. Ere I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. When the shadows of this life have gone, I'll fly away, my number from praises bars and flow, I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away to a land where joy shall never end. I'll fly away, I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away in the morning. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Jesus loves me, this I know. Tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. Jesus born on Christmas Day, sent by God to show the way, shows me what is right and good, helps me live the way I should. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so.
I want to welcome our guest speaker today. Most of you know Gloria Wilhelm. If not, she is a joy to know. You ought to get to know her. She's going to be hanging around after the worship service, and we'd be glad to talk to you about the things going on across the street. Most of you know we got Faith Academy Charter School getting ready to crank up. Is it 2 weeks, Gloria, or less?
Probably less.
It's a blur. It's a blur. Right. They are scrambling around trying to get furniture and everything done. They have not had a lot of time. But as you know, we are hoping to really reach out with the gospel in our community. And Faith Charter School is one of those opportunities that we have to really make a difference. So we've invited Gloria here, and we're thankful that she can join us. Why don't you show me a good warm welcome, or show her a good warm welcome, I should say.
Well, I must say there is excitement in the air all around. We are the newest elementary school, and looking forward to opening up. And I've got a lot I would like to share with you, but I probably won't. Like I told the pastor, I got a lot here. You all, first of all, thanks, Pastor Richard, for the opportunity. There again, it said guest speaker. He kept saying guest speaker. I said, I'm not a speaker. I don't plan to be a speaker. He said, we know you. Come and share. So that's what I'm going to do. Come and share. It's almost been a 3-year journey to get where we almost are. We plan to open the doors on schedule August the 23rd. about 2 weeks away. Not there yet, coming for some help. And I also want to share with you some ways you have already helped us so far. Let me tell you just and first, I have to reflect back just a minute. Thank you, congregation, last week for not doing the flyaway. That helped me get through. A little special prayer. He prayed for me a while ago, but that flyaway does it. And thanks for letting me take a good look of your children. That helps me get excited too. And so I'm going to move forward. As many of you know, I attended Faith Elementary School, as many of you do, and lots of you have memories of that school, and we wanted those memories to stay alive. Many of you continued into the education field, and it's because you had good role models at your local community school. The last 3 years, there's been a lot of ups and downs, and not knowing whether there would be a school there or somewhere else, but we do plan to have a good opening. Yes, my career began as a first grader, Faith Elementary. My career pretty much ended when I retired 14 years ago. I was at Faith Elementary as the assistant principal. Since then, I've been a volunteer until COVID hit, and then part of this early on committee of keeping a community school here. I was right there, and I've been there for you every day since January. And I want to thank you in many ways. Shiloh, you've been there from the very start. Last summer, I asked the pastor, I said, part of our application packet to apply for a charter school in North Carolina is there's a whole section on community support. I've got to have letters of support. And he did, as many of you did, wrote letters of community support. In that charter, it suggested many things the community could do. The State Board of Education has reviewed with us many times our charter and what we said we were going to do in that charter in the next 5 years, and it greatly extends community support. And I can't say that too many more times, but it's there in the charter. If we put it in the charter, which was a 75-page application packet, it's got to continue. They will continue to review us and make sure things are happening. So, Shiloh, yes, you were there at the very beginning. You're writing letters early on, back sometime within the last 6 months when we thought we were not going to have a place for children to open up. You offered your property to have the pods, which while I'm on the subject of pods, we've been waiting on them all summer, especially the last 3 weeks. We have 7 of the 10 units, and they did begin push them together, 3 of them on Friday. So that's still on. So that pod situation, many of you worked hard on. It's almost there. Let's see. What else is Shiloh? You've collected new and used game boards that we could use in our after-school clubs that I'll talk about in just a little bit. You've collected books. You've collected school supplies. I think your Bible school had a boost on collecting school supplies, which will be very helpful to open up a new school year. As you know, we started from scratch. I mean, the kitchen is gone. The room's there, but all the appliances that go with the kitchen are not there. The cafeteria tables and everything, gone. Furniture in classrooms, gone. Fire extinguishers, gone. I'm off that. You have helped. Keep praying for us. You got us this far. Keep that praying coming. And this is the one, and I put my own special code on here, OS, outstanding. Your middle school youth group, and I don't want to call any names, but anyway, your middle school youth group and their families just completed a very successful mission day on our outside, doing bukus of things that needed to be done that hadn't been done in years, and it was time to do it, and we just thank you. Hang on. Thank you, mission team. Super facelifting. Every time we walk over to the schools, the lead administrator, Dr. Hensley, says, "Isn't this a good-looking school?" Just every time she says that, and I always say, yes, because we kind of let it go down the last few years. But it looks good. Painting. The contractors that came through, that helped us, that loaned us money, the developers and everything, they drug their feet. About a month ago, I said, listen, it's not going to get done by those developers. We've got to, I want paint on those walls. So we established the last 3 Saturdays, and folks came and painted classrooms. That project's over. Some of you helped. We now have some real, I shouldn't say real, professional painters in there to finish up the hallways and get things more ready. But let me tell you, those of you that helped paint or sent folks to paint, it looks good. Let me tell you something. The color of the paint doesn't matter. But guess which one we chose? Agreeable gray. You can't go wrong, they say, with agreeable gray. So you're not going to see a lot of color in there till the teachers come and put some things on the bulletin boards. You wouldn't believe some of the stuff the painters had to get off the wall before we painted because of some of the things, glues and tapes and things. But anyway, right now, agreeable gray. Right now. Cool. Some of you have dropped by our office. I'm only going to call one name. I don't believe she's here. She might be listening in YouTube land later on, but she's probably one of your older church members. One day, Rose Holshouser came into our Main Street office, which several of you have come through lots and times and checked up on us since January. But Rose Holzer came in, and she sat down and she said, Gloria, could you just tell me what's going on? And I told her the best way I could, the timeline of what's happened the last 3 years. And she seemed agreeable. So Miss Rose, if you're listening, thanks for coming. Other folks who dropped by, sometimes when I was not there, and said, where's Gloria? And that didn't matter. I don't know why I said that, but anyway, a lot of people do stop by and say that. But you've dropped by Sunday school classes, have dropped by checks. Sunday school classes have dropped by cash, office supplies, donations. We plan to be in the Main Street office, the old post office, through the end of August. And the only reason probably we're not over, some things have moved over that way, but we don't have internet and phone system hooked up yet. Don't know why. Those were top priorities early on, and hopefully tomorrow we'll get them, but we're still working on some of those things. So yes, it's been busy, jumping through lots and lots of hoops. I attended Faith Lutheran this morning for Sunday school, and they were talking about the person who jumped the hurdles in the Olympics and broke records and applying it to our lives. They kind of looked around the room and said, now what kind of hurdles have y'all had lately? Well, I couldn't wait to tell them I was still jumping hurdles, and I will be to August 23rd. I'm not employed, I'm just a volunteer, and that's coming up next. Most of all, Shiloh, thank you for the prayers that you have continued to lift. And keep those prayers going, because we certainly want to open up on schedule August 23rd. I'm just going to stop here just a minute. Boys and girls that are not coming our way to Faith Academy, good luck in your endeavors at your school. I've spent 32 years in education. I know how important education is, and I want you to be the best student you can be, or the best teacher you can be, or the best administrator you can be in whatever school you are serving, because it is a calling from God, no doubt. All right, current needs. This is the one Pastor Richard said, bear down on them. So, and he said he would back me up. The most current need is in the morning at 8 o'clock, 3 tractor-trailer loads of furniture, classroom furniture, that is for teachers and students, will be coming in on pallets and shrink-wrapped. And our task is, once it gets off the truck, we have to get it in the classroom. If that classroom has already been, like in the kindergarten building, the carpet's already been cleaned, so we can put furniture in there. If it hasn't been cleaned yet, we can put it outside the doorway in the hallway. But can you imagine? Now, the other day, a tractor-trailer load came, just one. It was the biggest tractor-trailer I ever seen, and he brought the cafeteria furniture. And it took a while to unload that. But this is just big. I mean big. Can you imagine? 3 big tractor-trailer loads. I can't imagine. I can't even close my eyes sometimes to imagine that. But in the morning at 8 o'clock, if you got time and you got a good back and you can lift 25 pounds, or if you got a dolly or a hand truck, that might help. A tractor with a forklift to get pallets, because we're going to have to go all the way around the building to different locations to put that. And we got a map, we got it all planned out, and we're going to try to have it organized. But that's the most need that he didn't know about when he asked me to do this. The other need, and if I'm going too long, just stop. I'm almost there. After-school clubs. Part of that application packet, community involvement, suggested that we have clubs, and we'll have teachers to be advisors, but we need a community support person just to come in and be a part of those after-school clubs. Within the first week of school, children in grades 4 through 7 will be given a survey, and it'll pretty much have a list of some possible clubs with Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays listing, and they'll have 3 choices of what they might want to do if they want to participate in an after-school club. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3:15 to 4 o'clock. Just keep that right here. Possible clubs: archery, drama, sports, science, knitting and crocheting, chess and checkered club, history club, art club, maybe 4-H, a garden club, and then you can suggest others if you like. I will be here, as the pastor said, while you are having water fun. I don't know why this ear doesn't hear sometimes as good as this ear, but I thought he said we're having a rally. Now later on, I don't know where rally and water fun got together, but I'll be nearby, probably the fellowship hall area, with volunteer forms if you'd like to volunteer and take it home or sign it right there. If you want to go ahead and say, hey, I'd like to help George Wilhelm with archery on Tuesday afternoon or whatever afternoon he decides to do archery, I'm prepared to take that so I can get back with you if you'll leave your email and your phone number and that kind of thing. I know you've got lots and lots of questions. If I told you something that was going to happen at Faith Academy that you didn't know about, that was part of my purpose. If I got you excited, that was my purpose. We'll need you. Don't know, and that COVID thing, if that pops up, I don't know, I haven't been able to volunteer to school since March a year ago because of COVID. Not that I had it, just because of the ruling, but we'll let you in as needed. We'll certainly let you in these, but I'll let you in the morning if you want to move some furniture, with or without. And thank you for the prayers, the one that got me through this, and thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. I don't think she could have talked long enough to explain the obstacles they've had to overcome. And they've overcome them so far. I think with God's help, there's still several more to go. Definitely need more prayers. There's a lot that's got to happen in the next couple of weeks, starting with that furniture. So thanks to everybody for already being the light of Christ in the community so far, the middle school team and what they did, and those that helped out there. Other ways, the painters, others in the community just done what they've done behind the scenes. You know who you are. Thank you for doing that so far. I invite you now to join me as we join our hearts together in prayer as we continue with our worship service.
Time to draw close to Him.
Our scripture this morning is from a brief passage that's actually part of the Sermon on the Mount. We've used it before here, but with it being Sunday school promotion and blessing of the backpacks and everything that's going on, I felt it would be appropriate to kind of get us focused for the year ahead. And it comes from Jesus' words in Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 16. He says, "You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven." Amen. Pastor Tony Evans recalls the time when he and his wife were on their way back to Dallas from their vacation in New York City, and they arrived at LaGuardia Airport at roughly 4 in the afternoon on August 14th, 2003. They got in line for the curbside check-in, but the line never really started to move anywhere. So Pastor Evans eventually got out of his car and walked ahead of the line to find out what was going on. And he met up with the baggage handler, and who informed him that the airport was completely without power and that nothing was working at all. So he went back and he got back in line with the other thousands of people for a couple of hours. And then everyone was informed that a power grid had gone out in Canada, causing it to shut down a lot of southeastern Canada, as well as 8 states in the northeast United States. So that all of that area was without power. In other words, he and his wife found themselves stranded at the airport in the middle of the blackout of 2003, the largest blackout in North American history, during which 50 million people would be without power for up to a couple of days. Slowly but surely, Evans and his wife began to realize that the problem was much bigger and was going to last a whole lot longer than they initially anticipated. So he quickly called up his assistant back in Dallas and said, "Hey, I need you to help because things have gone south here really quick. Can you find us a hotel room ASAP?" So she calls back 15 minutes later and she says, "Hey, I found you one. It's the Crowne Plaza LaGuardia, but they said they'd only hold it for you for 10 minutes, so you got to get there." So he and his wife immediately call out on a taxi. They make their way, and as you can imagine, it's pitch dark. This taxi car driving down through these dark streets. They arrived at the Crowne Plaza Hotel, which by this time was lit by candlelight, if you can imagine a large hotel lit like that. And they checked in, had to do it manually because nothing was working. And eventually they took flashlights and made their way up to their hotel room. Well, they lit a candle to kind of light the way so they could retire in their room for the night, was their plans, hoping for a better day tomorrow. When his wife went to pull the curtain back in order to see, hey, can we raise these windows and let a little bit of air in here? And guess what she saw? Across the street, the Marriott Hotel was all lit up with music playing in the middle of all that darkness. Now keep in mind, nothing else was lit up anywhere around it. So Evans and his wife made their way with their flashlights down the stairs and crossed the street to see how this was possible. They walked into the Marriott with this air-conditioned foyer lined with tons of TVs, tuned in to CNN reporting about how dark New York was. They wound up getting in line because Marriott was probably offering the only hot food in town at that time. And eventually he called up with the assistant manager and said, "How is all this possible? How can you be filled with so much light and power here in the middle of all this darkness?" And the guy said, "Well, this is quite simple." And this is what Evans says he said. "When we built this hotel, we built it with a gas generator. Therefore, we're not dependent," hear what he's saying, "upon what's happening out there to determine what's going on in here. We've got something in here that, because it's not dependent upon what's going on out there, gives us in here what out there does not possess. They had something built in that gave them the ability to transcend the darkness, Evan says, in which they found themselves. Now think about it. When we watch the news and look around us in the world today, we see a lot of darkness. We see social darkness, moral darkness, relational darkness, and even spiritual darkness. Truth be told, a lot of churchgoers, whether we would admit it or not, are paralyzed by it all. Don't know what to make of it, don't know what to do with it. Many of us are discouraged by the darkness, worried by the darkness, hopeless due to the darkness, and ultimately afraid of the darkness. But this morning I want to remind us to remember that Jesus said that we are the light of the world. And light, like that Marriott hotel, sticks out and shines brightest when it's the most dark. Those of us who are Christians need to remember that the church was built with its own gas generator that never stops. It was built on the foundation of Jesus Christ. And to borrow some of the words of Marriott's assistant manager, the church is not dependent upon what's happening out there to determine what's going on in here. We've got someone in here that, because he's not dependent upon what's going on out there, gives us in here what there does not possess. We have someone built in that gives us the ability to transcend the darkness in which we find ourselves today. Which brings us right into our little brief outline this morning. As the light of the world, the church needs to rise and shine. That's our acronym, S-H-I-N-E. To do so, first of all, we must stay connected to our power source. We got to stay connected to our power source. It should come as no surprise if we get overwhelmed by the darkness if we are not connected to the power source. If we have a lamp at our house and we go to plug it in, it's going to come on. If we leave it unplugged, it's not coming on. When we got back from vacation, Lindsay went to put something in her microwave at first, couldn't figure out what was going on. Guess who had unplugged it before we left? Things do not work without their power behind them. In verse 14, Jesus said that people do not light a lamp and then put it under a bowl. That makes no sense. The lamp is lit in order to provide light in the darkness to everyone in the house, Jesus says. And I've got over here beside me, being the person I like to do this stuff, here is an actual lamp, like in Jesus' day, that was made in the Holy Land. It's a replica. It's not from ancient times. But you put olive oil in it. Olive oil was very abundant over in that area. They had it up to their ears. Lots of olives and olive oil. You could fill that up, and it would burn for 4 to 5 hours, it's been estimated. This makes perfect sense when you consider the parable of the 10 virgins. If you'll remember, they were there ready for the big wedding, and they all had their lamps waiting into the night. And then the bridegroom was delayed in coming and did not arrive till midnight. Well, guess what? That would coincide with about the 4 to 5 hour times of light they would have from their lamps. Well, 5 of them had brought an extra little jar of oil so that they could keep their lamps burning. 5 of them, called the foolish virgins, did not. And so when it was announced that the bridegroom was coming, you remember what happened? They had to rush to the store or rush in to try and buy some from somebody. Meanwhile, while they're off trying to buy it because their lamps had gone out because they were not prepared, the 5 wise ones had already got their lamps burning. The bridegroom and the wedding party goes by, and they go into the banquet and they shut the door. And the foolish ones never made it in. Why? Because what they did was a grave offense and insult to the host who had given them the honor of serving in the way that they were. It's important for us not to let our lamps go out due to discouragement or whatever, we need to be tapped in to that never-ending supply of oil that comes through Jesus Christ. It is in and through Jesus that our witness and lamps, if you will, can endure burning brightly even in the darkest hours of the night. Without him and his constant, continuous power supply, we will burn out. Jesus said it this way, using a different analogy in John 15:5. He said, if a man remains in me and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Are we abiding and remaining in Jesus at this moment? That word means, have we made our home in him? Have we set up shop with him? Have we taken significant time to spend with him so he can refuel us through prayer and his word? Do we take time, consistent time, to be with the other members of his body for our mutual fellowship and worship and discipleship so that he can refuel us, so that we in turn can burn brightly for him in our witness, ministry, and missions? It is in and through Jesus Christ and him alone that we receive the never-ending supply of God's power. And this brings us right into point number 2. We must huddle with other little lights. We must huddle with other little lights. What do I mean by that? We are the little lights that make up the big light, if you will. And it is when we worship together, serve together, and live out our faith together that we shine the brightest and the furthest. Jesus explains in verse 14 that a city on a hill cannot remain hidden at nighttime. Why is that? What is a city made up of? A city is made up of multiple buildings, houses, streets, and people. And at nighttime, there is a collective glow from all the smaller lights burning in those buildings, houses, and streets. If you've ever been an awful ways from a city, you can see the glow from a distance. Their collective light burns brighter. The more individual lights burning in the city, the greater the amount of light the city produces. And the same is true of the church today. We as individual Christians are to let our smaller individual lights shine in our everyday lives. We are. But in order for our witness to be at its brightest, we must join together so that the world will be drawn to our collective shine, as all those people were drawn to that Marriott hotel on that dark, dark night. Jesus said in verse 15 that people don't light a lamp at night and then put it under a bowl. How much sense does that make? It makes no sense to hide our light in the darkness so that no one can see it. That doesn't help anyone with anything. It makes no sense that we proclaim Jesus to be the light of the world and yet keep his light and ours hidden within the walls of a church building. We are meant, by this illustration he gives us, to engage and illuminate the darkness within the community around us. This leads right into point 3. We must impact the world around us. It's not an option. That's part of being a Christ follower. That's part of being in him. Jesus said in verse 16, to let our light shine before people so that they will see our good deeds and praise our Father in heaven. Now, Jesus says in Matthew 6, at the next chapter, he says, we must be careful not to be doing our acts of righteousness in order that others may see us. But that in no way contradicts what he's saying right here. In verse 13, Jesus said that his followers are the salt of the earth. Well, what's one of the main uses of salt that we have for today? We use it for seasoning food, right? Usually when I make an egg sandwich in the morning. I'll get up, scramble my eggs. I'll add a little fat-free milk, a little salt, throw it on the stove, get that done, and get me 2 slices of bread, slice of fresh tomato. Making you hungry, aren't I? Slap that all together, and when I take that first bite of that sandwich, I don't think I've ever thought, that is some good salt. What am I thinking? That is a good sandwich. Or maybe those are some good eggs. You see what the purpose of the salt is in this case. When we serve in the community, our ultimate goal is not to have people say, well, that Pastor Richard, he sure is an awesome guy. It's not the goal. Or that Dawn Barbie, hey, she sure is good with children. Or that Mike Zimmerman, man, he sure does a lot of good stuff. That's not the ultimate goal. We're just the salt. We're the seasoning. Our ultimate goal in serving is that others see Christ in us and say, that God sure is awesome. There must be something to this God thing. Because what I'm seeing sure does look good in light of everything else that's going on in this world right now. That God is sure doing some amazing things in and through the lives of those folks at Shiloh. This time I want to ask our staff members, you're wondering why I'm not in a coat and tie. Well, this is why. Staff members, if you're close by, if you'll just come forward real quick. We got a couple of examples right here. We were going to have a gray option. Come on, stand up. You're our only white shirt, John. One of the things that we're working on behind the scenes, been doing it for a while, and we just got to fine-tune all the things with the consistory. But we got these knit shirts. We're going to offer them for sale, not to make money. If we wanted to make money, nobody would be able to get them. We want to let folks know who we are here at Shiloh. It's not just to say, hey, everybody, look at Shiloh, woo-hoo-hoo. It's so that they'll say, oh, those people, I'm seeing them showing up in different places in different ways, serving in different capacities. There's something there going on where they want to make a difference in the community. And you got your white option, as John said, symbolizing his purity. Y'all want to step over this way a little bit? And then you got Martha and I, we're on fire for the Lord right now. We're in the red right here. You got your dark navy bluish color. I forget what the official name is for it. And we got a gray as well. Agreeable gray, that's right. You might want to be careful about wearing it over at the charter school. You might not be seen. No, we might blend into the gray. But anyway, but to wear these shirts, it's merely to show folks, hey, there's something going on beyond all this. We're looking to get T-shirts too, because I don't think we want to wear this shirt while we're moving furniture, right? You want to have shirts that you can wear whenever and whatever. But remember what we were talking about earlier, right before COVID really hit hard. That SHARE acronym. We serve others, help others, appreciate others, respect others, in the hopes of doing what? Engaging others with the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what it's all about. Thank y'all very much. That's what we hope to do. What is it all about? Jesus said it himself in verse 16. He said, let your light shine before men that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. How do we do this? How do we do it? Well, first of all, fourthly, we must neutralize the decay in this world. Neutralize the decay in this world. Back in Jesus' day, the main use for salt was to preserve things, to keep the meat from rotting, right? So when we as Christians see families, neighborhoods, schools, individuals, and others, and their lives falling apart, we are meant to jump in there with the power of God and the love of Christ in order to help meet those needs and help prevent further decay. That's part of what we're about. And fifthly, we must exemplify God's grace and truth in our lives. Exemplify God's grace and truth in our lives. These good deeds to which Jesus refers include transformed lives and Christ-like character that stick out in the darkness. When we're wearing our Shiloh Church shirts in the community, The potential to do much good for the glory of Christ is amazing, but so is the potential to do great harm. What kind of message will it send if we're wearing our Shiloh shirts while volunteering over at the charter school, while at the same time we're bad-mouthing and gossiping about others? What kind of message will it send if we're wearing our Shiloh shirts while having a prayer at the Faith Soda Shop, and then we post something like a picture or a comment online that is totally un-Christ-like? Will such a mixed message make others see our good deeds and praise our Father in heaven? Or will they be distracted or even disillusioned by the darkness in our lives? In order to shine brightly, Jesus goes on in the Sermon on the Mount to declare that Christians not only refrain from violence and murder, but to refrain from bitterness and unforgiveness. They not only refrain from adultery and immorality, but refrain completely from lust. They not only honor their promises, but they also honor their word. They not only refuse to seek revenge, but they also are willing to turn the other cheek. They not only avoid hating their enemies, but also embrace loving and praying for their enemies. It's radical stuff. We shine brightness in the darkness when our lives are deeply and genuinely transformed by Jesus Christ, by His grace and His truth. For many, in their homes, their lives, communities, in this world, night has fallen. And for many, it's dark. It's really dark. But what are we here for? We're here to announce that the sun has risen and He's still shining from His throne today. And church, it is our turn to rise and shine and give God the glory. And all of God's people said, amen.